They called you too sensitive, too emotional, too deep, too much. And for a long time, maybe a very long time, you believed them. You tried to shrink it. You tried to manage it. You apologized for feeling things that were completely real. You questioned your own instincts so many times that you started to feel like a stranger inside your own mind. But here's what nobody told you. What they called your weakness was the exact thing that terrified them. Not annoyed them. Not frustrated them. Terrified them. And today, right now, I'm going to show you exactly why. Because once you understand this, you will never apologize for who you are again. They called you too sensitive, too emotional, too deep, too much. And for a long time, maybe a very long time, you believed them. You tried to shrink it. You tried to manage it. You apologized for feeling things that were completely real. You questioned your own instincts so many times that you started to feel like a stranger inside your own mind. But here's what nobody told you. What they called your weakness was the exact thing that terrified them. Not annoyed them. Not frustrated them. Terrified them. And today, right now, I'm going to show you exactly why. Because once you understand this, you will never apologize for who you are again. Here is what I need you to understand about toxic people and toxic groups. And this is the part that will completely change how you see everything that happened to you. They did not target you because you were weak. They targeted you because you were the only one who could see them clearly. Let that land for a moment. Every manipulative person, every toxic group, every carefully constructed social performance, it only works when everyone agrees to pretend. It only survives when nobody names what is actually happening. The entire system runs on collective blindness. And then you walked in. You, with your ability to feel what isn't being said. You, with your instinct for what is real versus what is performed. You, with your deep sensitivity that could detect inauthenticity the way a compass detects north. You were not a threat, because you were going to expose them loudly. You weren't planning anything. You weren't scheming. You were simply present. Genuinely, fully, authentically present. And that presence alone, your realness, was a threat to everything they had built. Because here is the psychological truth that most people never talk about. Toxic systems don't just dislike authentic people. They are genuinely, deeply destabilized by them. Your authenticity forced them to feel the gap between who they were pretending to be and who they actually were. Every time you were honest, they felt the weight of their own dishonesty. Every time you were kind without agenda, they felt the ugliness of their own conditional love. Every time you sat in your truth, their carefully constructed false selves cracked a little more. So what did they do? They did the only thing a system built on illusion can do when confronted with reality. They tried to destroy the mirror. They called you too sensitive because your sensitivity was reading them too accurately. They called you too emotional because your emotions were real and theirs were performances. They called you too deep because depth was the one thing they could not fake and could not follow you into. They didn't dislike you. They were afraid of you. And they dressed that fear up as criticism, as gossip, as exclusion, as casual cruelty disguised as jokes. They built a narrative about you. The difficult one, the dramatic one, the one who takes everything too seriously, because the narrative was the only weapon they had against someone they could not actually argue with, could not actually outfeel, could not actually out-truth. Now I want to take you somewhere deeper, because this was not an accident. None of it was. There is a concept that runs through almost every ancient spiritual tradition on this earth, from Sufi mysticism to Buddhist philosophy to the wisdom traditions of Africa to the indigenous teachings of the Americas. And that concept is this. The soul that is being prepared for great purpose will first be tested by great pressure. Not punished, not abandoned, not forgotten by the divine. Prepared. A diamond is not found shining. It is found as rough carbon deep in the earth, subjected to more pressure than the human mind can comprehend, over more time than we can imagine. And through that pressure, not despite it, it becomes the hardest, most luminous substance on earth. You were in a pressure chamber. Those people, that group, that toxic dynamic, they were not your story. They were your forge. Every time they tried to make you doubt yourself, your soul was getting clearer about what it knew. Every time they tried to shrink you, Something inside you was quietly, invisibly deciding it would not be shrunk. Every time they attacked your sensitivity was actually deepening, becoming more precise, more refined, more powerful. They thought they were breaking you down. They were actually breaking you open. And here is the spiritual truth that sits underneath all of this. The truth that I want you to carry with you long after this video ends. You cannot destroy what was built by the divine. Not with gossip. Not with exclusion. Not with psychological games or social manipulation or coordinated cruelty. None of those weapons were ever designed for a soul like yours. They were designed for egos, and you were never just an ego. You were always something far more than that. The universe does not make mistakes in who it gives this gift to. Your sensitivity, your empathy, your ability to see truth. These were not given to you by accident, and they cannot be taken from you by people. They tried. They genuinely tried. And here you are, still feeling, still seeing, still whole. That is not luck. That is armor that they could never see because it was never made of anything they could touch. So where does this leave you now? Because I don't want to just talk about what happened. I want to talk about what is happening right now inside you because of all of it. Something has shifted. You can feel it even if you can't fully name it yet. The version of you that existed inside that group, the one who monitored their words, who softened their truth to keep the peace, who questioned their own perception every single day, that version is gone. Not damaged, not broken, gone. Shed like a skin that no longer fits. What is emerging in its place is something that has no patience for pretense. Something that can sit in a room full of noise and remain completely, absolutely still inside. Something that has been tested at a level that most people will never experience and has come out the other side not bitter, but clear. This is what I want you to understand about where you are right now. You are not in recovery. You are in revelation. Recovery implies you were broken and need to be fixed. But you were never broken. You were being revealed to yourself, by yourself, through the pressure of everything they put you through. The real you, the unfiltered, unshrunken, fully alive version of you, is not something you need to rebuild. It was always there. It was just buried under years of making yourself acceptable to people who were never going to appreciate you anyway. And now you get to meet yourself fully for perhaps the first time. You will find that your intuition is sharper than it has ever been because it no longer has to compete with the noise of people who were constantly trying to rewrite your reality. You will find that your peace is deeper, not because life got easier, but because you no longer spend your energy maintaining a false version of yourself for false people. You will find that your relationships, the ones that remain or the ones that are coming, feel fundamentally different, lighter, realer, more nourishing than you knew connection could actually be. Because you now know the difference. You have felt the counterfeit. You know exactly what it costs. And you will never again pay that price. That is not just healing. That is wisdom. And wisdom, once earned, cannot be taken back. But now I need to tell you something that most people in my position won't tell you. Because it would be very easy for me to end this video here. To leave you feeling powerful and vindicated and spiritually elevated. And you deserve to feel all of those things completely and without guilt. But I would not be being real with you if I didn't say this next part. Be careful of what you do with what you now know. There is a version of this journey that goes somewhere beautiful, where your sensitivity becomes your superpower, where your experience becomes your wisdom, where your pain becomes the thing that allows you to see other people's pain and hold space for them in a way that almost nobody else can. And there is another version, a darker version, where the wound stays open not because it hasn't healed, but because you keep returning to it, where you find yourself monitoring what they are doing, checking if they are falling apart, measuring your healing against their suffering, where the story of what they did to you becomes the most important story you tell about yourself. That second version is a trap. And it is a trap built specifically for people like you, people with deep feeling, because it disguises itself as justified anger, as righteous awareness, as spiritual discernment. But here's how you know the difference. Genuine healing moves you forward. It makes you more present, more open, more available to the life that is actually in front of you. It makes you less interested in the past, not because you are suppressing it, but because the present has genuinely become more alive. The trap moves you sideways. It keeps you emotionally located in a chapter that has already ended. It keeps them at the center of your story even after you have physically left. It is a very subtle form of still being in the room with them. Except now the room exists entirely in your mind. You are too rare for that room. Let it go. Not for them. They are not worth a single moment of your precious energy. Let it go for you. For the life that is waiting on the other side of this story. For the person you are becoming who has absolutely no use for the weight of people who were never worthy of your light in the first place. Your sensitivity is not a wound to manage. It is a gift to carry forward. You came into this world feeling everything more deeply than the people around you could understand. That is not a design flaw. That is a design feature. One that was never meant for the small rooms and small minds that tried to contain it. They called you too sensitive. But sensitivity is how you knew. It is how you always knew. When something was off, when someone was lying, when a room full of smiling faces was hiding something rotting underneath. They called you too emotional. But your emotions were the only honest thing in rooms built entirely on performance. They called you too deep. And they were right. You are too deep for shallow water, too deep for shallow people, too deep for a life that was never designed for a soul like yours. You were not too much. You were too real for people who had decided that reality was the one thing they could not afford. And now, on the other side of all of it, you are still here, still feeling, still seeing, still whole. They tried to break something that was never breakable. They were not dealing with a sensitive person. They were dealing with an unbreakable soul who was merciful enough to stay quiet and wise enough to eventually walk away. Stay in that wisdom. Stay in that depth. Stay in that extraordinary, terrifying, beautiful truth of who you actually are. Because the world does not need another person who has learned to feel less. The world needs exactly what you are.